What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Antler&FeatherCo Podcast, the podcast for new and adult onset hunters and every other hunter that wants to listen, you can listen to. Hey, my name's Vince, and this is the show where I, an inexperienced newer hunter, bring guys on who know a whole hell of a lot more about hunting than I do. And as I ask them questions and I learn new things, I just want to pass them right along to you guys. So this week we're going to kind of reflect on this last season. We're going to talk about things that we learned, situations we were in, and we want to kind of just share what our seasons looked like, and maybe you guys can learn something from that, and maybe I can learn something from our guest, and vice versa. We're also going to kind of talk about how training in the gym relates to hunting. We're not going to go too deep into that. That's for another episode, in terms of like methodology and things like that. We're not going to give you rep sets in this one, but I do want to talk about it because it is the beginning of the off season. Now's a perfect time to start working out, get yourself ready for next year. If you're going to be doing total archery challenge or turkey hunting, you're also going to want to be in better shape for that. Ultimately, the better shape you're in, the better you're going to do out in the field. So we want to kind of just talk about how I train, how our guest trains, and we'll kind of go from there. So before we get going too far in, thank you guys for checking out the website, antler&featherco.com. Everybody who's checked out the gear, picked some up. I appreciate that. That supports AFCO and the podcast and keeps us going. I've recently picked up some new equipment that's going to help me with designing things for that. You guys, if you've been following along, I've been trying to drop some new turkey stuff. We got much more of that coming. I'm going to wait a little bit closer to turkey season, not all the way up until, but we'll drop that soon. We're adding to the strength department, which kind of goes hand in hand with the training that we're going to dabble in today. So yeah, thank you guys for checking it out. I appreciate the support you guys are showing with that. Keep going, and I'll keep designing. All right. I want to share a couple friends of the show with you before we get going too far into it. Guys, check out Buzzard Roost Saddles. They're the most comfortable, most adjustable saddles on the market. They're the best saddle you're ever going to get your butt into. I recommend them highly. I love mine. I sit all day. I have no pinch. Anytime you get a little bit uncomfortable, like you're going to in any saddle, you just move a little bit, you tighten or loosen up a strap, and you're good to go for another couple hours. They are just awesome. They're American made. They support military and law enforcement, which I love. If you want to try one out, go AAFP10 on their website. That's going to get you 10% off your own Buzzard Roost saddle. The official coffee of the Antler&FeatherCo podcast is, you guys should know it by now, Our Grounds Coffee Co. They are absolutely kick-ass company. Ed is a great guy, and he roasts some great coffee. I love the Muley Mayhem, but I'm a real big fan of Roosevelt. You guys need to check them out. I think they got Color Phase coming out soon, which I believe to be a light roast. It's just great coffee. Spread the word. Use code AFCO, all caps. That's going to get you 15% off your coffee order. They also got merch too now, so check that out. And then finally, our boys Spartan Forge. Bill's kicking ass with Spartan Forge. There's new stuff coming out with it all the time. Get it now, get familiar, use it for turkey season, and then by the time deer season rolls around, you'll be a master. It's just the best mapping deer movement prediction app on the market, period. There's just nothing better than it. There's just not. So try it out for free, and then when you fall in love with it and you want the full subscription, all caps AFCO on their website, it's going to get you 20% off your full subscription to Spartan Forge. So this week, I just want to kind of unpack what happened this season, kind of dig in, see what we can learn about it. I wasn't in the woods as much as I would have liked, as you guys know. So I want to kind of see what gold we can pull out of this season. Ultimately, like I always say, if you can learn one thing in the season, you've had a successful season, whether you put an animal down or not. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into some training. So with that, let's introduce our guest. Our guest this week, you can find him on Instagram under the name at Bobcats and Broadheads, and he's just a great guy. He's very funny, puts out great content. I enjoy following along. I've really enjoyed kind of forming a friendship with him. So with that, please help me welcome to the show, Bryan Gay. Bryan, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, Vince. How are you, man?
I'm doing really well, man. Is your hunting season, guys? Just for transparency, Bryan and I have been talking for like a half hour, and I didn't record it, so we're gonna say all of this again. Bryan's had some rehearsing. Hey, are you? But yeah. So how's your season been, man? I know you guys. You mentioned your season's done, but you've got some urban still open. So how's everything been going with your deer hunting this year?
A lot of heartbreak this year. Urban archery's hopefully kicking off soon. But 2 massive Volkswagen-sized bucks, literally, and I probably rushed it, but
No, you go for it.
Yeah, no, I busted it, man. It really heartbreaking. One of them actually physically made me sick.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But hopefully, we get some urban archery going in the next month or so, at least until February 20th, and then get a couple more in the freezer.
Good deal. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Our urban seasons usually run, what is it, concurrent or congruent? I don't know, guys. I'm not
concurrent.
Not that smart. Yeah. We'll just say run at the same time as.
Yeah.
Make it more simple for me. Yeah, so our urban season usually runs alongside our normal season. So your guys' is actually separate.
Yeah. So our regular season ended January 2nd, just based on the day that it fell on. And then urban archery started January 14th. And then it'll kick through February 20th. So there's just a section of the biggest city around that has overrun, and they're just, yard feeders at this point.
Yeah. Well, it's a very important thing to do. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why deer in the city need to be managed, but I had kind of brought this, we were talking about this on a previous podcast, and my number one point that I totally forgot to bring up on the last one is, aside from the management and just all of the different things that good reasons for urban hunting, another good reason with that is if they don't have that, and if hunters aren't signing up and hunters aren't doing that, the city's just going to pay somebody to do it. And then all of those deer, who knows what happens with them? Do they take them to a processor? Do they, so urban situations, I would much rather a hunter go in there and take care of the deer, take care of the meat, fill the freezer with it, rather than having a city contract somebody to come do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and not only that, but the folks that, are going to and from work in the early morning hours actually cause insurance damage to their vehicles, So
Sure.
I try to seek those folks out and say, hey, can I get in your yard and shoot some deer? But last year I donated an entire deer, all meat and everything, to the local fire department. So
good deal.
Those guys, they love to eat, man, and they do a phenomenal job, and they have some recipes that I can't even keep up with.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna say this for my brother, who's a police officer. They've got plenty of time to sit around the kitchen. That one's for you, Bill. Yep. But yeah, so you've been able to put some meat in the freezer this year?
I did. I got 2. The first one was at about 38 yards. Thought it was a doe, acted like a doe, looked like a doe, and then when I recovered, it had 1-inch spikes.
Did it really?
Oh my gosh, I kicked myself.
My kind of deer.
I kicked myself. So I get 2 buck tags, and I called my buddy, the game warden, and I was like, hey, in certain states there's rules if it's under 2 inches, whatever. He goes, nope, if it's broken skin, you're done.
Oh man.
So then I had to be super selective.
Yeah. Let everyone know where you're from.
Eastern North Carolina. So I'm about 2.5 hours east of Raleigh. But so I'm realistically 3.5 miles from the Marine Corps Air Station. So I do a majority of my hunting on the base.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's basically public land. If you take a course, you do everything you're required to do on the base. It's free for all.
Yeah.
There's gun areas, there's bow areas, and I bow hunt the gun areas early season before all those guys get in there.
Yeah.
In case I mess it up early season because I'm a goof. And then I move to the bow areas later, hopefully to scare them all off.
Well, that's a good, get in there, knock the rust off somewhere where you're not too concerned about it.
Yep.
Those guys will be fine. They can shoot 200 yards away.
There you go.
Well, hey, man, I'm going to say a quick prayer, and then we'll get into some more conversation about, what we've learned from this previous season, and just kind of the experiences we ran into.
Absolutely.
So, Lord Jesus, I thank you for another day. I thank you for just the fact that you allowed me to wake up and breathe your air, and to see your light, and to just be a part of this world that you've created. I thank you for your sacrifice on the cross. In my place, you took my nails, you took my sin, you took my punishment, and ultimately, now I can freely have a relationship. I can glorify you, and without what you did for me, none of that would be possible. So I hope that you can use this podcast, use this moment right now to reach as many of your people as you can. I want to use this podcast as a tool for you first and foremost. I'm also very thankful for Bryan. I'm thankful that he would come on here and spend time with me. We ask that you would be over this conversation, that you would let us have a fun, entertaining conversation. And again, use this podcast however you see fit. And we ask all this in your great name. Amen.
Amen.
Just because it's kind of standard operating procedure, what is your hunting background? How'd you get into it? And why do you still love doing it today?
So I grew up in Central Florida, land of airboats and alligators.
Nice.
Not a whole lot of deer hunting, right? So mainly alligators, hogs, that type of thing. Snipe is a real thing. Drop off.
I don't know, man.
Dude, I swear to God. It's a tiny bird with a bill like this long that just, you turkey hunt with a shotgun, and this is the best shotgun. I mean, you're only getting nuggets out of it. But you literally shoot them out of the sky, you ring them up, throw them in your cargo pocket.
Yeah.
The sketchy part is you get dropped off in the middle of the reeds in an airboat.
Ugh.
Yeah. But I mean, it's fun. And then, so fast forward, like I said earlier, joined the Marine Corps in summer of 2001. Everything hit the fan, and really kind of just lost sense of everything, except for, deployment cycle, constantly getting ready for everything. And then 2012, I got a break. I went to a transport squadron where we did a little bit of search and rescue. We moved people around everywhere. And my buddy was like, "Hey man, you want to go deer hunting?" I was like, "Yep." I got a shotgun. He goes, "Okay, here's a fold out chair and a gallon bag of corn. Let's go get in the woods." I was like, "Dude, this isn't a real thing. There's no way." I grew up hog hunting in Florida.
Yeah.
And he's in a tree stand, 243, hits a, small 3-pointer, one side 3-pointer. And so that was it, dude. I was hooked. From that point, I was like, I need a bigger gun. So I did all my research, bought a 308, and literally probably 3 days later, he's like, "All right, I'm going to put you in this spot. I'm going to go over here. No corn this time because we're on public land." Not 20 minutes. I'm rocking a $90 Walmart climber that weighs like 120 pounds.
Yeah.
I'm having to
$59.99 on sale, baby.
100%. I was like, this thing sucks. This doe walks in and I just smoke it. I was like, "Hey, I'm done dragging this thing to the truck." He goes, "I'm not even in a tree." He was angry with me. So I was like, all right, this is easy. This is too easy.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I need to get a bow. And I was like, so then that started my quest of like a bow. And I was horrible. Like, man, fumbling around, couldn't figure it out, the whole nine. Then I ended up having to have shoulder surgery. I had actually 3 consecutive within 18 months.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, military doctor messed it up the first one. Like within 6 months, my physical therapist was like, "Something's wrong." I was like, "Yeah, I know. This is worse than before."
Yeah.
So I had to have a complete revision, and then a year later, I blew it out. Just doing stupid weightlifting stuff, throwing weight over my head I shouldn't have.
Sure you should have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's no reason I'm throwing a 230-pound man over my head. Anyway, so I had to have another one, and I was like, okay, well, that year sucked because I had to break down, sold my bow, bought a crossbow just so I could get in the woods. And it was just from that, I was like, okay, if I can draw a 55-pound bow, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to, suck it up. And then it slowly progressed, started working on shoulder strength. And, now I'm back up to regular big boy speeds.
Yeah.
So
what about, I don't mean this to be funny for anyone who thinks so. What about crossbow? Did you want to get back to a bow?
So for me, a crossbow is Eastern North Carolina is super thick. There's a lot of just underbrush. I mean, I'm not shooting over 40 yards, period, end, regardless. Crossbow is just it's a rifle, in my opinion, for here. 40 yards and under, there's one pin, that's it. And I'm shooting literally darts. And it wasn't fair to me because I didn't have to put in the work that I would have had to bow hunting. The second deer I shot this year was literally at 8 yards.
Yeah.
So I had done my job. I still had to draw the bow, this and that and the other. With a crossbow, you're literally just sitting and waiting. You may as well be in a box blind with corn underneath it and waiting for that animal to come in. And it just, to me, I wanted to challenge myself. Nothing against crossbow hunters. Yeah. There's a time and a place for everything.
For sure.
I had it because I was physically unable to draw a bow. And there's folks that 100% warrant that. Once I was physically able to draw a bow, that's all I wanted to do. So I haven't gone back. I haven't gun hunted in probably 3 years.
Yeah, that's just kind of the same with me. And one of the, when you get past just if you can, calm down and not get triggered with the whole, like, you're dividing hunting. The point I was trying to make is really, and I mean, I think you feel the same way, like, there's an intimacy, and not just in the hunting realm, but just like shooting your bow. Like today, I woke up this morning, felt like absolute dog shit. And, I've been trying to learn a bunch of things that I don't know for this project I'm doing. And I was just either going to punch a wall or, I didn't know what. And like, I had this little thought in my head, I was like, just go shoot your bow.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know that I would feel that with a crossbow. I just, there's something special, and people get into the big argument. Well, you're not a real bow hunter because you don't shoot a long bow. Well, I have a recurve too that I enjoy, but besides that, there's something about just the whole process, the whole shot process, that there's, like I was trying to say, like, there's something special about it. And there's a reason that people fall so deeply in love with archery.
Well, there's room for error in everything. Rifle hunting, and there's a greater room for error because the velocity, the travel, everything. And to me, that crossbow kind of fell right into there, like where it was going so fast. If I hit a shoulder, it's probably going through it. Where with my bow, if I don't pull that back a little bit, calm myself down, and I hit a shoulder, there's a good chance if I hit that knuckle, I'm not going through anything. Or if I hit the knuckle on the other side, I'm really bad off. So, and it's just, I had it. It was a means to an end for me. If my wife wanted to hunt, which she absolutely has no desire,
same.
I would have kept it. She's actually shot the crossbow better than I ever could. And
really?
Offhand, I don't know how she does it. She just is like, is this it? Are we done? And she's like, mastered that. What's next? And I was like, are you kidding?
Yeah. I mean, they're awesome for a lot of things. And that's one thing that I think people thought that I was just saying they suck for everything. And it's like, no, man, my kids, I got a 3-year-old, he's about to turn 4. Now granted in Iowa, I think you got to be much older to get a youth tag, but like when he gets wanting to be in the woods, that's how I'm going to start him.
Sure.
Or like you said, if you've got a shoulder injury, or if you, you're getting older in your years, I've gotten a lot of people saying I hunted my entire life with a bow, and now that I've gotten older, I can't pull a bow anymore. How dare you say that I'm not a bow hunter? And my response to that is, dude, I am not the guy to say I'm not saying you're not a bow hunter.
No.
You did your whole life doing that. Like, you know the game.
Yep.
I was talking about the kid my age, 35 years old, who just chooses not to shoot a bow because a crossbow is easier.
Sure. Yeah. No, and
even in that, there's caveats to that, because maybe you shoot a crossbow because it's easier, because you don't have the time to train with a bow, so you're not going to be proficient with it.
Yep.
By all means.
Yep. Get out.
That's a great idea.
Get in the woods, man.
But anyway, God, crossbows. They just, if they do one thing, they just really carry a conversation.
Well, and yeah, and like I said, there's a time and a place for everything, and one of those days when I'm, in my years and I can't pull a bow back anymore, I'll put a crank on the end of a crossbow and then get in a tree.
Hell yeah. Same here, man.
I've been there already prior to 40, and I'll do it again. But right now I love to be up close and personal, because then I know I'm doing something right. I have a lot more range with a crossbow. I don't have to be as cautious. I can, there's a lot more room for error. And,
that's not to say that, like, you couldn't still put the same work in with a crossbow. You could do everything and just say, hey man, I'm not shooting anything outside of 20. So it's not to say that you're less of a hunter either.
No, I got a buddy of mine who hunts with a crossbow, recurve, because he wants to be more traditional. And he goes, I'll shoot your arrow. You put it wherever you want on my target, and I will shoot your arrow. And I'm like, no thanks.
Yeah, please don't. Those are
because I believe him, because he just puts the time in, and it's just like, okay, I'm good with you, bud.
No, I was gonna say, I kind of wanted to dig into a little bit to some of the things that both of us might have learned from this season, because I'm very big on, if you can say that you've learned one thing, you had a successful season. I don't measure success, and a lot of people might argue and say that you're just not a good hunter, that's why you didn't kill anything, but I don't really measure the last 2 years when I did not fill tags. I didn't measure those years as unsuccessful, because they led to me now having a successful year this year because of how much I learned. Couple of examples of, like, things that I learned is I took over the mindset when I talked to Dan Infault. I kind of took some plays out of his book and started hunting closer to roads, closer to the parking lot. I tried things like hunting inside of standing corn, looking for bedded deer. And there was just a lot of things that, even doing those unconventional things, that helped me out later in the season. What are some things that you can think of that you pulled out of the season?
So that very specific, that podcast, I listened to it. Hunting the Base here.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hunting the Base. Every month there's ordinance specific areas that are off limits for hunters until this time. So I got drawn for a bow area, and I was like, look, there's no reason for me to push way far in. Mm-hmm. So super tall reeds. I'm only like 5'8", maybe 5'9" if I cough. But I was like, this looks like I could see a pathway. I could see where they were moving. I'm literally 8 feet away from the ordinance fence, and I'm like, and I jumped a buck, and I was like, and I knew it was big. I was like, okay, cool. So I posted up in a tree. I saw his bed. I knew exactly where everything was, and I kind of mapped it out because it was a housing area on the other side. So this is where I screwed up, because listening to Dan Staten, is separation is in the preparation. I had 2 bottles of water and a Larabar for an all-day hunt, because I planned on coming out during lunch. I was like, man, if I don't see anything, I'm gonna get it. Dude, I saw literally the biggest deer in eastern North Carolina I've ever seen in my entire life. Really? Drew back on it and let one rip at 12:47. The night of both of my daughter's homecoming. And I was like, okay, well, I got to be out of here by sunset. So I sat and I waited. Mm-hmm. I was like, dude, it was a good shot. And I brushed the shot. I did, but I didn't have any food. I didn't have any water. Literally, I burned through everything before lunchtime. So I waited, called my wife. I was like, oh my God. I was like, it just happened. It just happened. I was like, because she is 100,000,000% against me putting any trophy on the wall. I was like, I got a spot for it. It's already drawn out. It's looking at the front door, it's greeting people. And she was like, well, it better be at, a 9 or bigger. I said, okay. So I knew the arrow wasn't a pass through. I saw him run off with it. And got down, gathered everything, kind of got back to the fence line, grabbed all my stuff. I was like kind of calming down. And I was like, okay, well, I know where he went. Good blood. And it started kind of trickling off. Well, now it's pushing 2:30, 3 o'clock, and I still haven't had any food. And I'm out of water. So I'm like, okay, back out, because blood's kind of getting lighter. Called the game warden, who's a good friend of mine. I said, hey, bud, you want to come out here and give me a hand? Can you bring me a sandwich or something? He heard everything but bring me a sandwich or something. He goes, I'm on my way. So he comes out, he's got his walking stick, and he's ready to roll. So we start tracking, found the arrow, good blood all the way through. And I was like, goodness. And then it kind of went into a weird, where it kind of cut down into a ravine and a bunch of brush. And blood's now at droplets. And I'm like, oh no. Mm-hmm. And I'm like now starting to get heat exhaustion. It's early October here in Eastern North Carolina. It's still 80 degrees. And I'm like, dude, I think I need to go in. He goes, what do you mean? I go, I don't know if I'm going to make it. He goes, what do you mean? And I was like, dude, I don't feel so hot. And he goes, once we're done here today, we're done. This area is closed off. You can't come back tomorrow.
Oh, you can't even look.
No, done.
Oh.
It's an ordinance only area. So I was like, oh crap. So I pushed it, right? So I was like, okay, go to exhaustion. And I was like, fuck it. I've been in the hospital before, whatever. So I just run it. And so it's like 5 o'clock. It's getting dark. Blood is like, now we're literally doing grid square searches.
Yeah.
He's like, what do you think, man? I was like, I don't know. I think we pushed it. And I'm shaking the whole nine, white as a ghost. And because I feel bad. I knew it was a good shot, but now I know that I haven't recovered the deer. I feel bad. So now it's just compiling everything.
Yeah.
So my wife calls and she goes, your daughters are dressed for homecoming. You need to get home now. They're both, teenagers. And I was like, shit. So get home, go do pictures, do everything. I'm literally curled up on a picnic bench, like just there as a person. And I'm like, oh my God, and just never recovered. So for that, separation is in the preparation. I mean, be prepared for any scenario. Food and water were my two downfalls on that one. Everything. But you're, like you said, hunting. So I was literally probably 16 feet from the fence line, pushed in, and I jumped a buck, and he came right back to that bed within the hour.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't have planned it any better. Yeah, I just ran out of gas and time. Yeah. You can't buy time. Once that last light hits, that area is fenced off, done, no more.
That sucks. That's such a, and I mean, even from that, and we've kind of touched on it on previous podcasts, like that's a scenario. That's kind of a different scenario. I talked to my buddy, the Urban Pursuit. Yep. We talked a little bit about like how to deal with, basically either wounding or not recovering an animal. And it's tough enough, but gosh, when you have, I've never heard it that way where you have a time frame.
Yeah.
Where it's like you literally, you're done.
Yeah. So, hindsight, tomorrow's never a guarantee.
Yeah.
So, I mean, arrow went in probably 18 inches. I mean, it literally stopped on the opposite side scapula.
Depending on how long, like he's dead somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure.
But
there's a housing area right behind there. There's no telling. And once it's closed off, that's it. I mean, they're writing tickets, arresting people because You know, it's a Marine Corps ordnance cache. I mean,
probably don't want to jack around on that.
So I was like, okay. And I was down hard for 2 days after that anyways. You know, I was drinking liquid IVs like they were candy just to try and recover.
Well, and that's kind of, I mean, not to jump to some of the stuff I wanted to talk to, but I wonder how much, you know, if you guys have not followed Bryan, like you train pretty consistently.
I run hard, yeah. But so
I mean, that had to help quite a bit. I mean, just keeping your body on it. I mean, and your mentality, being in the Marine Corps, like you're not built to quit, but like you really, you find out sometimes where you butt up right against like my mentality is go, go, go. And my body's literally like, bro, we cannot anymore. This is the real wall that everyone thinks they hit after, you know, if you listen to David Goggins, I don't remember, it's the 40% or whatever it is. Like, this is the real wall.
Yeah. No, so, and, you know, 25-year-old me was like, just go, go, go. I mean, I could drink a bottle of tequila and just run a PFT the next day. That's been actually documented. But now it's like during hunting season, like I prep so hard beforehand and I try to maintain a you know, clean diet, everything beforehand, drinking to a minimum. But then hunt season hits and, you know, I'm eating gas station pizza and honey buns.
Right.
Just to keep rolling through.
Right.
Which is going to holistically change next year.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's one interesting thing is, we spend all this time prepping for the season, and I'm sure there's guys that this is not the case for, but for a majority of people, you prep all off season long. And then once opening day happens, like you don't shoot your bow every day anymore. You, like you said, diet's out the window. You're not working out as consistently because the times when you would be working out, you're in the woods. Yep. And it's like, it just falls to shit.
It does.
And it kind of reminds me of when I was talking to one of my buddies, his baseball player. I was like, when you hit the season, how do you train during the season? You're playing games every day. Like, when do you have, like, do you guys weight train during the season? He's like, oh yeah. I mean, you got to maintain it. It's a different type of training than the off season was. But yeah, it's funny. I am totally guilty of it. And my gym workout partners will tell you the minute deer season hits, they're like, he's gone. Yeah. You know?
So mine is my wife, and we work out in the garage. We do a lot of stuff here. And she's like, all right, when are we getting back to it? And I was like, oh my gosh. She's like, well, good. You're going to hurt.
Good thing for her. Yeah. Good thing for her. Otherwise, you know, you might not.
Yeah. It's just, and then it's like, you almost like you're starting over, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm over 40 now. It's like hunting season's over. It's like, okay, get back to the grind. But now I have to remind myself, like, okay, I know where I was. I need to scale that down. Let's get back to that. And then the heat and humidity here in East North Carolina is absolutely insane. I mean, you've seen me in my videos. I'm shooting in shorts and a t-shirt.
Oh yeah.
Like soaked in sweat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was 70 degrees here yesterday.
Was it really?
40, I think it's 49 today. So, I mean, I'm not out shooting in shorts and Crocs like you are.
Dude, I actually had some people message me on there. Someone messaged me and they said, you do know it's still January outside, right?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I know it's 29 degrees, but I mean, it's where we live. Right. I'm not going to say I was comfortable, but that was also part of it. Like I do stupid things like that. I am not the guy. I'm not your Cameron Haynes or your Joe Rogan or your David Goggins. I'm sorry. I'm not getting in an ice bath.
Not at all.
I'm not doing it.
I've tried it. It's the worst thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Yeah, I've had my ankle submerged in a bucket of ice water before when I hurt no, I'm not doing that. However, I will take the way out, and every now and then, like when I take the dog outside to go pee or something, like I'll go out in just a t-shirt and it's like -20 and I'm just like, I'm going to bear it.
Yeah.
And
there's a fine line with those guys. I mean, and they're on a different level than we are, obviously, you know.
Yeah.
monetarily wise, facility wise, they have the ability to go from a sauna that's 120 to an ice bath, where I'm going, 70 degrees, maybe. I'm not trying to get in an ice bath after that. There's no fun in that for me. If I was overheated and I had to, sure. But there's
not me. Let me die.
I guarantee you would try it. You would try it at least once. At least
I'm the kind of guy, like, if you have one and you're like, try it out, I'll do it. I'm not afraid to do it.
Let's do a workout, jump in the sauna, and then we're going to get an ice bath. You'd be like, okay, let's go.
Yeah, I would definitely do it. I don't know that. Well, I guess none of them really enjoy it. I was going to say, I don't know that it'd be something I'd want to do again, like that I would spend thousands of dollars to put one at my house.
Have you looked at the price of those
I guess
things?
I always thought an ice bath, and I guess it probably started this way. I thought it was like a cattle trough or whatever it's called. Full, like the same thing people are getting baptized in.
But to keep those things clean is absolutely insane. So you're basically buying a miniature pool to hold ice. I'm not a Cam Hanes or a Joe Rogan.
No. And if I did have the money, I'd buy a bass boat instead.
They have those too. I mean, they have those too. It's fine. It's not a big deal.
Right. Oh man. But yeah, kind of back to deer hunting. One of the things that I really learned a lot this year, which, like I said, previous years I measure them as successful because it led to me being successful in terms of notching a tag this year. There's a real, like, I have not had too many shot opportunities on deer in previous years. I've had a lot of situations where deer have been close, where I could probably reach out and touch them. But this year, just from things I had learned, I'd got myself into much better situations, much closer to where the deer really were. And one thing that both training and mental preparation, so things like on the off season, doing 3D shoots, shooting with people, trying to shoot your bow at least one arrow every single day. One thing that I noticed a big deal was when I had deer within 20 yards or less, I was really able to concentrate on the moment, and I didn't feel that like, oh shit, shaky. Now, granted, once the arrow flies, I'm shaking myself, worried about falling out of the tree, but preparation for the season, that's one thing that I learned from, I guess it wasn't last deer season, but prior to deer season, doing those things, shooting your bow all the time in the off season, it really calmed my nerves when a deer came in front of me, because I was able to, instead of worrying about, is my shot going to be there? Am I going to make a good shot? Am I going to be, am I going to release funny? All of that stuff was automatic. So I was able to just really talk to myself, calm down, strategically look at the situation, think about when is a good time to draw, not just like, oh, deer, and blow 100%, it, things 100%. Like that. Is that something that you've kind of noticed? Because I know you shoot your bow a lot as well. You do, I've seen before where you, very, very smart tactic, guys. You like to get your heart rate up and then go shoot. Yeah. It's not going to replace buck fever in the moment, but you're still shooting on an elevated heart rate like that. Have you seen or have you noticed things like that have really aided you in stressful situations?
So yes and no. It's a different feeling. So that adrenaline rush is something that can never be replaced unless an animal's in front of you. Trying to get that elevated heart rate, calm yourself down, all those things kind of fall into place. The tree saddle is a whole different world. Do you stand up? Do you push your knees? Where are you at in the tree? Where is your harness? Where is, there's all these things that come into play. And then this year, you asked what kind of bows people were shooting earlier. I was shooting a Martin, I went down the rabbit hole of heavy arrows and this and that and the other. So my pin gap was significant because I was shooting a 500 grain arrow. But when a deer comes in at, I range constantly. Here's a tree, 35, 31, this and that, and I know where all these, but I constantly do it. When that deer comes in, all of that's out the window. You're like,
Right.
okay, I know that tree's at 35 and she's at a yard in from that. When she's actually 5 yards in from that, you shoot her in the spine.
Right.
Well, I mean, I didn't have to track her, but
Yeah, no shit.
but there was a follow-up shot required, which, I mean, obviously I ranged it and then it was done. So ethical kill, the whole nine. But it was like, you know what? If I was shooting maybe a lighter arrow or a faster bow, maybe a combination of both, and I get that pain gap super close, I know that deer's, anywhere from 20 to 35 yards, and I got both pins right there on her vitals, there's not a chance. So, and that was a big thing for me in this off season was, okay, I need to upgrade. It's time. I'm starting to outshoot my bow, the way I felt anyways. And it was like, okay, my wife agreed, which was, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
She goes, do your research, and I says, okay. She goes, don't just flashy, shiny, pretty things. Don't,
Right. Right. Which is easy to do in
oh my
today's
gosh,
industry.
because all these numbers that, that are coming out are just insane. So,
Yeah.
I talked to some buddies of mine and, they're like, I want you to shoot them all. Don't pick one right now. I want you to shoot everything I got. Tell me what you like, and then we'll go from there.
What'd you end up settling on, just for people who might not follow you?
I bought the 2023 Hoyt Z1S.
That thing's pretty sweet looking.
Oh my gosh.
I have to admit. Did you end up naming it?
It's Black Betty. You picked it, bud.
Black Betty got it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you were the first one to chime in, and I was like, okay, well, it's hard to not, and my wife was like, whoa, be careful, today's people. And I was like,
so we're just going to call her Betty from now on.
Yeah, but I mean, my 20 and 30 yard pins are literally touching.
Yeah.
And I took it out to 90 the other day.
Nice.
And I can shoot a balloon at 90.
Yeah.
And that's just, I shoot every day. I'm going to have to replace my strings before the season, I'm sure.
Right.
Just because of how much I shoot, but I love doing it. It's one of those things that when you get that something like a machine like that in your hand and you just feel that it's just like, okay, this is right.
Yeah. It's weird. It is very weird because different bows feel that way to different people.
Yep.
And even prior to I shoot, oh God, I can't even think about it. Matthews VXR.
Yep.
I shot a Mission switch prior to that. Mission is made by Matthews. That's what it says anyway.
Yeah.
But even jumping from that, which isn't really like in terms of geometry and stuff, it's not too much different from what I'm shooting now. Yeah, you shoot one, and I've shot Hoyts, and I really like the Venom Pro, and that's originally what I was going to get. But one of my buddies was like, hey, I got this Matthews that he hooked me up with. But yeah, that first shot out of there, it's like, there's a for sure, like, this one's it. It's
that's just that feeling, It's like driving a Pinto and then getting a Cadillac.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my hands are different than yours. And, the way I shoot is different, I'm sure. But it's all on how you feel and, what you can get a hold of and what's in your area. Cause that's a big thing too is, you probably don't even have marten in Iowa.
No.
Yeah. So, there's a huge marten following here where I'm at. Marten and Obsession, the same.
Oh,
and it was just like, okay, well, I kind of shot everything that they had, and I wasn't, I needed to I wanted to feel something else.
Yeah. And that's a really, really good point, especially in the off season when, most people, I mean, if you're straight balling, you're probably buying the brand new bow when it comes out in the middle of the season.
Absolutely not.
I'm not that guy. Like, I'm going to finish a season with the tool I prepared with.
Yep.
But right now, where a lot of you guys out there listening, maybe you're starting to look at this year's bow. Maybe it is your year to upgrade. You're going to hear this advice from a lot of people. Shoot a bunch of different kind of bows. Do not just say, I want a Matthews, I want a Hoyt, I want a Marten, an Elite. You've got to shoot them because you are going to find that although Matthews, whatever they are now, phase 4, there might be 100 people that are like, this is the bow. It might feel like shit to you.
Yeah.
And you might shoot some brand. Maybe you're not an elite person. You don't know what elite bows are. You might shoot an elite bow and be like, wow. So you do need to shoot all the different brands. PSE even, which is, when I came into the game a few years ago, PSE was kind of like it's a good like first bow brand. Like they're not crap, but they're not elite level. Since they brought Dudley on, I shot some of the higher end PSE bows at Total Archery Challenge last year, and I was really impressed.
Yeah, dude, it came down to an Omen or the Z1S for me.
What was the difference? That Omen looks sweet too.
It's phenomenal. It's fast. That Omen is and it doesn't feel like I shot at 70 because I don't need to pull 80. There's no reason for me to pull 80. It just the grip was super wide at the bottom, which I didn't care for. So then my buddy who was at the shop was like, dude, just take the grip off. Let's take it off, and I want you to shoot it without it. And it just had a weird, just kind of ting, just kind of held on. And we took the stabilizer off their new, whatever their new line is, and put it on that. And I was like, it still just kind of hangs around for me because I don't want a ton of stuff. I had to put a ton of stuff in my Martin, and I don't want a ton of stuff on this one. I want to take a bow as close to stock as possible. Put my stuff on it and get in the woods.
Yeah.
So I had a sidebar, a front bar, had all this kind of crazy stuff going. Man, I'm catching on vines, and I'm just like falling on the ground like Chris Farley. I'm like screaming in the woods, and then I'm trying to hang this thing and drag a deer. I'm like, oh my God, this is
yeah.
That's
one thing with all that extra stuff, like especially like when you get into like 3D archery season.
Yeah.
You want to trick your bow out, and like everybody right now, every bow has a sidebar, and I am just completely like, I will not put one on my bow, and I've shot other people's bows with them. My friend Aaron, he actually won the Golden Trident bow from Knock On a few years back.
Yeah.
And I actually got to hold that bow. And the thing, you hold it out as if you're about to draw. And I mean, it's the most like, there's no movement at all. But it's like, when you get into hunting situations, I don't want to do a bunch of stuff in the off season, get real comfortable, and then strip it away. Because I don't see a need to bring a sidebar into the woods. Maybe that's just me.
No.
But I don't want that on there. Like you said, whatever I can limit catching on stuff, I just don't want it. I don't want to do a bunch of stuff in the off season, and then you've got this inflated sense of how good you are, and then you strip it away and you're like, oh shit. Now granted, inside 20, 30 yards, you're probably not going to see a huge difference, but you don't know. I'd rather not find out.
So I number my arrows, 1 through however many, based on the way they move, the way they shoot, So obviously my sidebar's on the opposite side of my quiver. I'm cruising through the woods, and I get into a thick vine spot, and I'm like, okay, oh God. So I turn my sidebar to where it's towards my body, and I'm holding the bow where the quiver's out. Dude, I got to where I was going. Number 1 arrow's gone.
Oh.
Because a vine or something crazy, I got caught, and I was like, oh, crap. Had this not been here, it would have been the other way around. My arrows were protected. Now I'm like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
I know number 1 is perfect. Number 2, do I hold off a little bit? However, do I need to twist a little bit more torque? And I'm like, I had to go back through my notes, and I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Now I'm in a tree trying to figure out, I'm sweating all over the place. I caught vines, lost an arrow somewhere. That's $20,
Right.
And I'm like, what? Shit. And my wife's like, did you get anything? And I'm like, lost an arrow. She goes, what'd you shoot at? I go, nothing. Vines took it.
Yeah.
And then she,
Yeah.
So then I deal with that.
Well, then your sidebar, you got to protect the sidebar because it's probably $150. So that's going to take precedence over the.
Well, so I went with Redline Everything, which is a phenomenal company. relatively cheap. But then you get those sidebars caught on things and it twists and bolts, and then you're constantly tightening things. I'm already tightening mods anyways. Just,
Yeah, that's another thing that I wanted to add to my bow for the off season that I just can't get myself to do it is one of the stands, like where you can just say, and I don't want to get used to it because I don't know how much they weigh, but I've got to imagine even the slightest weight off is going to make a difference.
It is 1,000,000%. So I have like a little, it's like a little clip on. It's literally alligator teeth, and it's super easy. It's my bow's sitting on it right now. But if I shoot with it on, I'm shooting a fraction low right, and at distance it gets exponentially greater. And I'm like, why am I doing this? And then I realize I'm like, oh, I didn't take that off there. Idiot. So, 3D shoots, everything's great, but you just got to remember to take it off and throw it in your pack or whatever. But, I mean, how often are you shooting a 3D shoot on flat land other than Eastern North Carolina?
Right. Yeah. So one thing you mentioned earlier that I kind of want to talk about, and, we'll get to the training part here in a minute, but you had mentioned shooting out of a saddle. One thing that I learned this year, I love shooting out of a saddle. I really, in terms of getting through the woods, all that other stuff, I love the ability to just like, if I want to hunt on the ground, I can hunt on the ground. I'm not lugging around a stand. One thing that I noticed this year that got me thinking, although I really do like it, you do have to contend with your bridge, your tether. Sometimes you're in Arkansas this year on public land, I was in lazy mode where I had my knees up against the tree. My head was, leaned down on my bridge. I was looking the other way, and I happened to just it was probably God, like, hey, idiot, there's a deer over there. I happened to just kind of glance over, and there's a deer sitting at 20 yards. But the saddle, as much as I like it, in that moment, it was a challenge because I was like, oh shoot, had I just been sitting here in a stand, you don't have the opportunity to get quite as comfortable as you do in a saddle. So as much as I love saddle hunting, and I don't want to say that I'm not going to do it, I have been looking at, I'm a big XOP fan because I got into the game, and you know how it is when you first start hunting, like, you might think you love it, but then, like, especially when you're married, I can't tell my wife, hey, I got to go buy $16,000 worth of stuff to go do this thing that I've never done before. Yep. So I've always loved XOP because it's good stuff and it's fairly cheap.
Reasonable,
yeah. But they came out with
retrograde.
That
retrograde is phenomenal.
Dude, is that thing sweet or what? Like, I don't know why.
6 pounds? I'm literally considering trading in saddle.
Gone. Do you know what my XOP platform, the Edge, is like 5.8? It's literally the same weight as my platform. And I'm like, man. And for some reason, it's weird the way that we go through life. We go through this thing where you have like a very simple, kind of ugly, but because of how simple it is, tree stand.
Yep.
And then they get all fancy, you start getting these cool curves and designs, and they're sharp and they look good, which is what I feel like the last 2 years might be like. And then they come out with that. It looks like an old lock-on. And I'm just like, man, that is sweet.
Yeah.
Just the looks of it, just how retro it looks. And then you see 6 pounds and it's like,
But look how narrow it is. I mean, you could literally and their pack system, it's like $120 extra. So that you're throwing that on there too. So now you're all in for, $500. Same thing as like a tethered or whatever. Mm-hmm. But dude, if I'm gonna spot and stalk in a saddle, dude, I've tried to drag things out with the saddle, like dragging off my ass, and it's just like a pain. I'd rather, I just take it off and I attach it to the deer and then I drag it out. So, and I don't know the weight difference. And I probably should weigh everything out before I make a decision. But I saw that and I was like, dude, I may be doing this. I may be turning the saddle in, as diehard as I am, just because, I mean, there's comforts and there's, there's other times where it's like, this kind of sucks.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I think, I can't remember who I heard say it, and I'm sure it's been said by many people, but there's different tools for different situations.
Yeah.
And there are definitely times when, like I said, if you're looking to be comfortable, I would say you're going to want to saddle hunt, because for me, this is, again, it depends on your saddle too. And this is not to make you guys buy Buzzard Roost saddles, although you should, and you should use code AAFP10.
There you go. There you go.
So I had a tethered Phantom that I hunted in last year.
Yep.
And I'm not a real big guy. I'm 5'8". Right now I'm a little chunky at 205, but I got a little muscle under here. But going from a tethered to the Buzzard Roost was literally a completely different world in terms of comfort, because the tethered would ride up weird, or it would be too low. There was a little bit of, I didn't have a lot of hip pinch like some guys complain about, but there were times where I was like, I don't know about this. The Buzzard Roost is great, and I have done it, sit for a day in it, and it's great. But then there's times on some of the public land that I hunt where I've done really good scouting. This is not one of those days where I'm doing, scouting on the fly trying to find deer. I know where the deer are going to be. There are situations where I would rather just hop in there, put on a stand, and sit down, because saddle hunting is there are a lot of extra processes in setting up.
So, I think I'm going to stick with my climbing sticks anyways, regardless of saddle platform either way. But what XOP's done, which really, so I got a friend passed to a buddy of mine's hunting club, still hunting only, which dog hunting is crazy out here. So to find a club like that is absolutely insane. He goes, hey, take this X-op. He calls it X-op. He goes, take this X-op stand, go to this tree. There's a bracket in it. Just hang it and sit in it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what in the world? And he goes, I was like, do I need another strap? He goes, you don't need another strap. It's fine. Once you run it into this thing, whatever angle you want, put it on there and then set in it. I was like, this is the most comfortable thing I've ever sat in.
Yeah.
Because I'm, 5'8". I'm probably 212. But I'm a little bit heavier on the bottom side. And this saddle is just like, oh gosh. So and I'm a sweater. So this thing is just like, when everything's tight, my knees are pinched in, I have to wear knee pads against the tree. I'm like, man, I sat in this thing and I was like king of the world. Yeah. I was just literally waiting. So it may be something that's coming this year. The saddle.
Do you feel dirty about it at all?
A little bit. Well, I feel like I'm doing something. Like I sit in that, I'm like, I feel like I'm doing something wrong. Like
you preach. I have a damn podcast and Buzzard Roost is one of the podcast partners, and it's like you feel like I almost feel backed into a corner where it's like I can't go into a tree stand now.
So,
but it's like, man, I see a place for it.
Yeah. No, if you were on a property where you can have a bunch of sets, and you have a set place. I got to stand here for this wind. I got to stand here for this wind. Perfect. You're public land hunting, hustling. Yeah. That's my big downfall. Is that saddle's so just convenient.
Yeah.
I can get into any tree I want, and the mobility is great. It may not be as comfortable of a sit. But I don't have to be as selective.
Yeah.
So, and it may be my saddle, maybe because I'm in one of the first gen Menaces or whatever it is from the tethered. There's like 2 adjustments on it, and I bought a new bridge, and I can't hang because I'm so short. I can't, like, the bridge comes up. I can't put my bino harness in there. I'm all jacked up.
Oh, that's the worst. Yeah.
I don't, no one's ever talked about this. Like, what do you do with this? So I bought an adjustable bridge. I moved it shorter. I moved it longer. I'm like, maybe I'm just half retarded.
Yeah. I had that same problem. That's funny that you say the bino harness thing because I had that same issue. I didn't used to wear a bino harness. I put them on the elastic, just the strap, so they were hanging free. Never had an issue with that because I'd have them hang like kind of over my stomach. Well, I went to a chest rig harness, like an actual harness. Dude, yeah, that bridge is horrible. Just like, you either got to pull it underneath or like set it on. There were a lot of hunts where I just took it off.
Yeah, just take it off.
Yeah.
And then I got so lazy, I just stopped taking it.
Yeah.
And now I'm screwed because if I hunt like the golf course, I can't see distance to where things are moving.
Right.
Now I'm screwed. I have to wait till they're right on me.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think the big reason where it spurred this conversation for me was just the weight on that stand. Because to me, I hunt only public land. So that's why a saddle has been so great. It doesn't matter what tree I can get into it. And it's light. I love that aspect. But then you throw in like a 5-6 pound tree stand and you're kind of like, oh, there's been a lot of times where I would say more times than not, I'm getting in trees that would work with a tree stand.
Yes.
So as much as I want to be like, well, I can get into anything. I'm in Iowa, dude. We don't have that crazy of trees. Like there are certain scenarios where I've been in ones where they've leaned much differently, or maybe I've had to kind of, weave my way up.
Sure.
But
the only reason you got in that tree is because you were in a saddle anyways.
Yeah. And it doesn't even mean it was the best tree. It was just to prove the point that I could.
But then you get up there and you look and you're like, that tree looks a little bit better. That happens to me every time. That's another big BS part of the hunting game. Guys, we might not get to anything about training because we're hitting on it right now. You're in the woods and you find the perfect tree. And I don't know about you. I stand at the base of this perfect tree and I look around. And I'm like, this is it. That one leans funny. This one, whatever. I'm getting in this one. And you get up there, and as any hunter knows, it's a whole nother world when you're 15 to 20 feet in the air. And you look over 5 feet closer to the game trail and you're like, where was that tree when I was at the bottom? It's horrible. And I used a lot of trail cameras this year, and then like one failed, and I had this one fallen, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna run and gun a mosquito. So the base is basically public land. You go to an area that's bow only or gun only, and you check out, you check in, and it's kind of free for all. So when I go into the gun areas, it's like, okay, well, I don't know this area because I don't have cameras out here. And I'm literally looking and it makes me work. Yeah. But there's no view like a bird's eye view. When you get in that 15, like you said, 15, 20 foot, and you're like, so saddle or stand, regardless, I'm still pulling those 3 to 4 sticks down. So, I mean, it's 6 of one, half dozen of another in my eyes. And if you're cutting the weight down that low, I don't know. It's going to be a toss up this year.
Yeah, and I've never been in a situation too where they try, a big thing with saddles, like you can get in and get out and move and blah, blah. Once I'm in a tree, I don't care what I'm in, if it's a stand or a saddle. That's the one part of the game. We can argue back and forth.
Yes, I'm committed.
We can argue back and forth about saddle or tree stand or whatever the hell. Can we talk about climbing sticks? Those haven't changed. It doesn't matter how light they are. I had to climb that tree. I'm already up here. I'm not getting back down.
Yeah, no, I've committed. I've committed. And I went so far as I got rid of the straps, like the cargo straps, and I made my own Amsteel daisy chain. Yeah. So now it's even worse. I don't know if the straps are better. Or, I was like, because I got to twist this, and then I'm twisting and cranking down. Like, I don't know if this is worse or not. Yeah. Yeah, I did that. I put rope mod on my sticks this year, and that's a great point because we're avoiding straps because it's got a metal buckle and blah blah blah, and it's like if I actually look back, how many times did that metal buckle hit anything and go ting in the woods? Never. Yeah, it never happened. Not to mention if you're sitting in the woods quiet, like people are like, oh, metal sounds, Dude, it's strapped to a tree, man. It's not moving. And
there's so many freaking weird sounds that you hear in the woods.
Yeah.
Like, I think we get a little too consumed with like, that's another, a big thing. People are big on camouflage. And this year I was very much like, I'm wearing, unless it's freezing out and I haven't bought a camouflage, like real, like late season jacket. Like I hunted either in plaid or bottomland because I love bottomland just because it looks cool.
Yeah.
Or my just plain brown Carhartt. And it's like everyone gets like, oh, you've got to have this camo. You've got to have this camo. But then your bow has like I said the F word. I haven't done that on this one, I think.
There you go.
Sorry, guys. First time for everything. But your bow, you have this like orange dreamsicle, white and orange string on it.
Or like this. Like you're looking like this. You're like,
yeah,
this is not a big deal.
You got these.
No one cares.
Right.
You know?
And, the saddles are all these different colors. And then you got your ropeman, which is either like metal blue
Bright
or
blue.
like there's so many colors with our little accessories that nobody cares about that. But gosh, you better have your nose covered with camouflage. Otherwise,
yeah,
the deer are going to see you.
So I listened to Cody DeQuisto and he's like, people say that to him and he's like, no, I don't have to do this, and watch. And that guy kills some monster bucks. Like, just for instance,
from 10 feet in the tree, too.
Yeah. So like I said, at the base, I have to check out. So I checked out of the area and there was a fella cleaning a deer. So I stopped by the cleaning station. I said, hey, do you have everything you need? Do you need any knives? Do you need help? He goes, nope. The guy is literally in his flight suit. He got off.
Really?
He got off work. He goes, I just had my muzzleloader in the truck and it was too late to run to the house to change, so I just got in the woods. This deer walked in, nice 9-pointer, walked within 8 yards of him and just let her eat. He goes, I shot this thing from the hip. Just, I was like, goodness. He goes, I swear it looked right at me.
Yeah.
Sitting against a tree in a flight suit. Like, come on, man.
Well, that's where, I'm a big believer in the old saying, the best camo is sit down and shut up.
Yeah.
Like, because how many times have you been in the woods and, I mean, for instance, don't wear blue. Never wear blue jeans because UV and blue is a color wavelength that they can see. You go out in the woods, especially early season, like there are so many colors.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to be shocked by something that's yellow. Like, I really think, and I could be wrong, and I'm sure people would argue to the death with me about it, and I probably am wrong because I'm wrong about almost everything. But
me and you both, bud.
If you are in a bright orange, or not orange, but
bright orange vest.
Whatever, be in a bright blue suit and don't move, I don't think that they would really. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think movement's the key.
I think so too. 100% movement and scent. I think when it comes down to it, is those are the two biggest things, and that's that's what it comes down to. I mean, there's guys that have proven it wrong. Fred Bear was hunting in a flannel for years,
right,
with a recurve, getting 8 yards from a deer. That's record-setting deer. Cody DeQuisto is doing it now.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if the guy showers because he has, dreads and flannels. But
right.
And there goes the scent thing. I mean, if we're going there, but there's a million theories. I mean, and to each his own. I mean, if you want to spend $200 in Sitka gear just to say that you're, a fan club member, dude, right on. But I don't have that money, man. I'm gonna go out in my AFCO T-shirt this year, and I'm gonna see what happens.
Yeah, buddy. I got a nice. You can get. I think it's called berry colored. It's a nice pink one.
Oh, I can't, dude. With my name, I can't pull that off. I can't, dude. I'm sorry.
I think you just need to own it.
No.
But...
no. Man, I got two.
You're done with it. I've had enough.
I got 2 teenage daughters, and they don't want.
Yeah.
I can't wait till I get married, and I'm like, yeah, okay.
All right, you've made me be a smart ass. Have you found with the current cultural situation that you're more accepted with your last name than you were 10 years ago?
So it's so, and I'm in a business world now, since I've retired. It's a lot more accepted. People don't get, like you were at the beginning, like, am I saying it right? I don't want to just call you gay. Like, no,
right.
'cause I was gunny gay for 12 years of my Marine Corps career.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's harder on my kids. But now, I mean, they're so tough. Now it's just like I can't even say gay or anything like that. And my daughter's like, don't say that, Dad. I'm like, baby, I'm talking about us. This is
right. Well, it's like the boy named Sue, old Johnny Cash.
Yeah, I guess that's when my mom says I'm so tough. Cause like
I do wonder.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it was meant to be a funny question, but I wonder culturally if like people, because you read your name and people are so hyper sensitive to everything now. Like I'm sure people look at that and they're like, oh, I can't. Do I even? How do I approach this?
How do I say this? It's like, you know what, man, just let her rip, dude. I mean,
yeah.
I at this point, you should have at least understood. Like somebody's gonna say it wrong. Like some people call me guy, some people call me guy yays. I mean, it's like no, man, it's straight up gay.
Yeah,
like it's not a big deal. I wrestled all through high school. I was pretty good. And I've gotten a lot of fights.
You put yourself, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You've really galvanized yourself. You were a wrestler, and then you went into the Marine Corps. Like two very, very like.
So that's the thing, like
masculine situations.
I
was a wrestler too, so I know every time people are like, "Oh, you guys rolling around touching each other in your little spandex suits and blah 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 blah."
Yeah, it's like come on out, bud.
If you're rolling around touching dudes in spandex, like you're not wrestling.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're doing at that point.
Yeah, come on out, man. If you think you want to try, come on out, bud.
Exactly.
And I'll hurt your feelings. So it's I mean,
yeah. Hey, I have no pride. I'll check your oil just to prove the point.
100%. I mean, and it's Saturday Night Ride was my thing. I'm gonna.
There you go.
I'm gonna flip you over, and I'm gonna crank on you.
Yeah, that's the number one. Number one, when you get people talking crap about it. If you want to call it, we'll just, it's my show. You want to make fun of wrestling for being gay, I'm going to make it the most gay situation you've ever been in.
100%. 100%. I'm going to.
And you are not going to enjoy how I get there either.
Nope. It's going to be painful.
Yeah.
Because I was the shortest guy in the state of Florida to ride legs.
Were you really?
Oh, so I'd throw a boot in, and just kind of hang over a hip, and then I'd throw my other leg over like a helicopter, and then cross face the absolute piss out of you. Until I get into a Saturday Night Ride, and then I'm just going to be like, okay, man, are we ready for this?
Right.
Because it's going to look like we're having sex.
Yep. I'm going to humiliate these shit
in
out
front of your mother for calling, just for calling me gay.
That's right. I had that. Not quite the same, but my last name's Lind. So I remember specifically one time, it was when I was younger, a kid's like, your name's Linda? You have a girl's name, Linda? And it was in the, in wrestling when you're younger and you all have to go to your little round robin weigh-ins and you're all standing with the guys you're going to wrestle. And he kept talking crap. And I remember specifically, I annihilated that kid. And I'm pretty sure, like, I played it safe so I didn't pin him or tech him because I didn't want it to be over too soon. I wanted this to last.
Yep.
I wanted you to never, ever, ever think about doing that again.
Yeah.
But
it's crazy, and times, like I said, times have changed, and it's my daughter, my youngest, she's 16, and her nickname is the Bear, and she goes, "Hey, Dad, who's going to carry on our name?" And I go, "Darling, there's no one." She goes, "I'll do it." And I go, "Wait, what?" She goes, "I'm going to make my husband take our name." I go, well, I said, I don't think you want a husband that's willing to do that.
Right. Yeah. No.
And she goes, "No, it's fine. I'm tough. I'll make sure he clears you first, and then we're going to be good." And I was like, "All right, baby, whatever you say."
I'm going to check in with you. Hopefully this podcast is still going.
Yeah.
When that daughter gets married, we're going to check back in.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think it's going to happen. She's tough. I mean, she's probably the toughest person in my family.
Yeah.
So it's we'll see.
Well, hey man, I don't want to keep you too terribly much longer. I kind of.
We didn't talk any training, no training whatsoever.
No. And I think for just this, what I really just kind of wanted to get out there was what do you have like an extra 5-10 minutes?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I got all the time in the world for you.
So I wanted to kind of touch on, later on, I'm going to have a podcast that is going to be much more just like, this is how I train. This is how I've seen benefit me and I've seen benefit other hunters. You, and this is not an insult, so I don't mean it if I'm wrong. You train kind of CrossFit style.
Absolutely. Yep.
I did CrossFit for many years, so I just know that some people who don't do CrossFit and you say, oh, you do CrossFit, like, it's strength and conditioning.
No.
Like it's the same damn thing.
100%.
You got to jump rope and you're doing rope climbs like you're doing CrossFit, bro. Is that kind of is that something that just, how did you get into that style of training? Because a lot of guys you see out there, they want to bodybuild. I power lift now, which is strictly strength related. But CrossFit to me is kind of the most well-rounded discipline of all of them in terms of making you just a strong, fast, well-conditioned athlete that really translates into the woods well.
Yeah, so I agree 100%. So I've done, I don't know how I wrestled for so long. I've never been in better shape than I was at, state qualifier wrestling shape. That was the absolute best shape of my entire life. And I've done, so in Afghanistan, 2009, 2010, I got super big. I was pushing like 220, 230. And I was, just a monster.
Yeah.
Then I kind of slimmed down. I ran a couple triathlons. I did this, that, and the other. And then I just got into CrossFit. And that was that same kind of niche where I felt like I was in the best shape of that phase of my life to where I was, at my physical peak of performance where I could do anything. I could drag a deer out of the woods. I could carry it on my shoulders. I could do this. I could do that. Running never did that for me because it went to just aerobic. It was that constant, 100 beats per minute from my heart rate. Where CrossFit was up and down and up and down. Where if I'm dragging a deer or I'm climbing a tree or I have to calm myself down, and it kind of was just that good balance. Because like I said, I've done a vast majority of those things, and that was kind of the high intensity training / CrossFit, whatever you want to call it, just kind of fit into that chapter of the book where I was in my life, where I felt I was in the best shape. Before that physical chapter of 35 to 40, and still to this day, I say I got off kind of track during hunting season, but now I'm literally right back into it. CrossFit-ish training, just because I know that that's what works for me. And everybody's different. Cam Hanes is a runner. That's what his thing is. And he runs and he strategically weightlifts. And the guy does things that are, beyond me. But for the style hunting that I do, the things that I'm not running through mountains. I'm a majority flatland. Maybe I go through a creek or two, but Eastern North Carolina is not crazy, I'm just dealing with heat and humidity through, September, October. I'm pushing 100% humidity, 90 degrees.
Yeah.
So that CrossFit stuff, it just, style training really works for me.
Yeah. And I think it's really, it's interesting to see how it's kind of, it came to be, it really peaked. It was real popular, and then it's down in the decline now. You still have people who do it, but it's got such a bad name, which is, CrossFit did it to themselves, I think, in terms of like the qualifications that it takes to be a coach.
Sure.
You go get your level 1 in one weekend. Anybody can do it, and now you can say, you're a level 1 CrossFit coach. So you've seen a lot of people complain about getting injured. You've seen things like that. Mm-hmm. But I think that personal responsibility plays a big role in a lot of CrossFit injuries. I think that unqualified coaches play a role. I don't think that CrossFit, when done correctly, is dangerous.
No, not at all.
I think when your coach is telling you, go ahead and try to snatch 50 pounds over what you've ever snatched, or makes you've only done X amount of pull-ups, we're going to do 600 of them. When things are paired incorrectly, or you're an ego lifter, that's where I think the injuries come into play. But, in terms of how it relates to a hunting scenario, my gosh, like you said, I was a national level wrestler.
Yep, me too.
I had surgeries in high school, and I had not so hot grades. So I ended up losing. Anybody who D1 was looking at me didn't look at me anymore. And I was too proud to wrestle D3. Yep. So I didn't end up wrestling in college, and I really regret it now, but there is no comparison to the shape I was in at that point
absolutely not.
In my
absolutely
life.
Not. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I have never done anything. I was a marathon runner. It's kind of funny, same situation as you. Runner, I tried triathlons, you name it. I tried just going to the gym. There was nothing that took hold of my life and got me in better physical condition. I lost 70 pounds when I was doing CrossFit. I partied a lot. I was fat. I lost 70 pounds in like 6 months, had a six pack, didn't know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
But dude, I was a marathon runner, and my half marathon, I can't remember what I ran it in, but it was probably 6 or 8 months into CrossFit. Someone's like, hey, do you want to run the Quad Cities Marathon? I was like, dude, I haven't run over like 800 meters in a year. And they're like, oh, you'll probably be okay. I crushed my best time as a runner by a ton, and I felt great. And, this year, not doing that type of training, having to drag a deer uphill, dude, I wish I was in the shape that I was in, a few years back when it's just a great way to just be a very well-balanced athlete.
So a good friend of mine, owns CrossFit gym here locally, CrossFit Burn. Shout out to you guys, Steve Jassett. He is phenomenal. So we started out at CrossFit Cherry Point, which is a Marine Corps nonprofit affiliate, and they essentially paid for my level 1. And he says, hey, if you're going to come coach for me, you're going to have to shadow for at least 6 months, and I'm going to make sure that you're doing things properly. So he is, and I know it's not like that everywhere, but he was literally making sure I was dotting my T's and crossing my I's when it came to teaching people movements and making sure their form is right. He goes, you know what, form over weight. He goes, I don't care if you embarrass somebody. Yeah. I will let them walk out the door. I don't need their money. I don't want them to get hurt and give me a bad name. And that, and it's still a phenomenal business to the day. I just don't have time to just, run 20 minutes down the road to go work out for an hour to, then coach, then to BS for another half hour after that. It's just, I'd rather be in the woods. But he's done a phenomenal thing with what he's done. And that kind of, I've traveled all over the world of the Marine Corps, and I've gone to different CrossFit gyms, and, hey, this is me. And they let me do my thing. And they, certain places make sure my fundamental movements are okay before they let me just throw massive amounts of weight on the bar. But other places are just like, dude, do whatever you want, man.
Yeah. I kind of got into it. What was it? 2012?
Yep. Same. Very same.
So,
very same.
Yeah, I saw the big, like, I could see the writing on the wall with it. Even in my own gym, we had 2 coaches who, they were CrossFit Games athletes. Our gym, Quad City CrossFit, was like pretty big. They were at the CrossFit Games. I think they won the CrossFit Games one year. I don't know. Either way, very good gym. But then you could see, like, how it gets in the one weird part about CrossFit is it's good and it's bad at the same time. The reason people stay so committed is because these are your people now. You are very like-minded with the same goals. And then you get that one defector who's like, man, screw this place. I'm starting my own. And they all start popping up all around town. And it's all people who, like I said, that's where CrossFit took the bad turn. Was I don't think they did a very good job of like reining in, like everyone could open a CrossFit
they're
gym,
not vetting
and
their owners.
Everyone did. Yeah. And you know how it is. You know that this gym here, this is legit. They got a CrossFit Games team. Their coaches are good. Their programming solid. But you also know there's that other gym that's cheaper, that's down the road, that, you know, every day someone's blowing their shoulders out and this and that. But like I said, in terms of the style of training, I mean, if you look at like guys like Elk Shape.
Dan Staten, he's insane.
I mean, he's perfect example. And, you know, even to, like you brought up Cameron Haynes, like, although he doesn't do quote unquote CrossFit.
It's very close. Just watch the way he trains.
I mean, he does a lot of long distance running, which is great. But the difference between him and a long distance runners is a lot of runners just run, which is why every runner that you know is always hurt, because all they do is run, and then they get a small injury and they keep running and they keep running, and they don't weight train to supplement their running. But Cam Haynes, I mean, when he does lift, he's doing lower weight and a lot
high
of reps.
intensity. It seems like he's doing a lot of.
And he's not moseying around.
He's not doing 3 sets of 10, and I'm waiting 4 minutes between sets. It seems like he's moving, and that's all the Instagram eye that I see, which could be that's everyone's perspective. But to me, I mean, it seems like it's, and that's only speaking to me because I wrestled for so many years, and I know that was the best shape of that chapter of my life, and I know what that felt like. And then when I was, I won't say I was a games level athlete, but I was, regional level ish. I felt phenomenal, and there was not an animal I couldn't drag out of the woods by myself at that point.
Well, like you said, that's your choice too. You could drag it, you could lift it on your shoulder and walk it out. You could do whatever the hell you need to do.
And that was, like I said, that's just, and everyone's different. That's what makes us great is, you can run a marathon. I can't, I mean, I won't. I have a car for that. There's no reason for me to go 26 miles on my feet.
Right.
I'll even run a moped. But and that's the beauty of what we do is, what works for you and where you're at and regionally and, strategically, if you hunt close to the road and you can drag a cart in or you can do this and that and the other. But, I like to be able to be a little bit more mobile. I like to be able to drag out my game, do whatever I need to do. If I have to pull a tree down, I can do that. Where a lot of box blind hunters and these guys that, are running dogs there's no way. If they can't get a truck there, they're not doing it. Yeah.
And I mean, that just speaks to, this is not, no way am I saying like, if you want to be a better hunter, do CrossFit.
No, absolutely not.
That's the best. That's one of the best ways to get well-rounded, but just in basic, just the idea of guys out there who maybe you haven't put 2 and 2 together, that fitness is important to your hunting. I mean, even think about just like climbing sticks and going up a tree, and the stability of on your top stick when you're about to hang your saddle platform or your stand. Focus in this off season on getting yourself stronger, getting your endurance up a little bit more. Those things are going to benefit you so much. And I'm not saying it's regional, obviously. I'm not saying you're not going to sweat, but like, your body's not going to have to put out the same amount of work as it might currently have to get up and down trees. There's been times where things aren't going right. You're on that top stick and your calves start shaking a little bit. Like from a safety standpoint, being stronger and being in better shape is only going to benefit your hunting. It's going to allow you to go deeper in the woods if you want to. It's going to allow you to get things out of the woods better. It's going to allow you to, you're not going to have to spend as much money on light hunting gear. You can carry a 40-pound pack.
There you go. And that's the thing. Like my first year I retired out of the Marine Corps, I put on like legitimately 20 pounds just because I just drinking beers and having a great time. Then I was like, dude, I walked a mile in here. If I shoot a deer, I'm totally screwed. Now I've kind of redacted and gotten back to where I'm good. Now it's like, okay, I don't worry about it. But man, I don't know how some of these guys do it. Like, dude, call in Betsy. Let's get the 4-wheeler. Dude, there's none of that where we're going.
Yeah.
So it's general physical preparedness.
I mean,
you know?
Even if you're, you got a deer cart, that's still work. Especially if you're getting it up over trees and stuff.
Dragging a deer. I threw my cart in the freaking ditch this year. I was like, nope, I'm not doing this. This is garbage. I'm just going to drag a deer or put it over my shoulder and I'll just gut it in the field and throw it over my shoulder and run. Because that cart, the wheels are so small, or the one's flat, or there's a million things that can go wrong with that. Or it drags, or you can't get it right.
Yeah. Well, and you got to go get it.
Yeah.
You got to walk out, go get it, and go back.
Which is fine. I mean, if you're getting your steps in, if that's what you do,
Hey, man.
But
get your little notification on your Apple Watch. You reached.
There you go. You've reached your heart rate limit for the day. Sit down.
You are about to die.
Sit down.
Oh, man. Well, hey, I've kept you way longer than I told you I was going to. But yeah, hey, man, let everybody know where they can find you online. I think your content's great. You put out, you're a funny dude. If you guys, obviously, if you've listened to this point, you know that you put out just funny content, good content. You guys are going to love it. So let everybody know where they can find you on Instagram.
Bobcats _and_ broadheads. It's kind of linked to my Facebook. I don't know how to Facebook very well. It's super complicated, but it's easy to put dumb videos on Instagram. So I'm learning how to mix those up and do that. So, but that's where you can find me. Or just follow Antler&FeatherCo, because I tag them in everything I do. You know what I mean?
You go.
So yeah,
win-win.
I love what you're doing, man. I didn't start deer hunting until super late, like you said, 12 ish. And then I fell in love with it, man. I love what you're doing. I love everything, the steps and bounds that you're making, the stuff that you're putting out is just phenomenal.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Hey guys, make sure you check him out. You will not be disappointed with that. I appreciate you coming on here, spending all this time with me. Guys, make sure you're also following us over on Instagram. I've gotten it now, I think, and I could be wrong. You guys let me know. I think everything is consistently Antler&FeatherCo or @Antler&FeatherCo. So check us out on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. I did just recently go over to Twitter. I don't really know why. It just kind of happened. So that's literally just everything from Instagram. So if you're already over there, don't worry about it. I will not go on TikTok because I'm a proud American and F the Chinese.
There you go.
If you guys found value in this show, if you learned something new, if you put something new into your hunting arsenal that you can take into the woods with you, please subscribe, like, share, rate, and review. When you guys do those things, it allows me to keep bringing great guests on the show like we had tonight, which ultimately is going to make you more deadly in the woods. I appreciate everyone who tuned in today. Thank you guys so much for listening. We are going to catch up with you guys next week. This is the Antler&FeatherCo Podcast. You are listening to the Antler&FeatherCo Podcast.